Welcome to Backyard Cigars. And today I felt like taking something out that's been in the humidor for nearly 2 years. This happens to be the Montecristo Epic No.2 Premium Selection 2007 or Selección 2007. This is a cigar that measures in at 6x50 in the pyramid shape, torpedo. And as you can see, it has a primary band, a secondary band. As of now, it's burning into the first inch. I think the burn line could be better, but it's decent. It's got a nice semi-open draw. So far, what I'm getting from the cigar is sort of like a black dirt, earthy tobacco flavor. Best way I could describe it. And this is an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper with a Nicaraguan binder, and then vintage tobacco, aged 5 years, from Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic. And when this was released in 2012, using tobacco from 2007, that's 5-year-old tobacco. But now, obviously, in 2021, the tobacco in here is nearly, 14 years old. It's also been in the humidor for 2 years. It was introduced as the bolder, fuller-bodied expression of their Montecristo series. It was something that they wanted to do to attract the cigar smoker who had a fondness for that stronger cigar. As we know, the Montecristo White and a few of the other Montecristos are just wonderful cigars, mild as they may be. So, very much like a lot of companies at around 2010, those early years, 2012, 13, they wanted to release something, especially the bigger companies, the giants, wanted to release something that would get people's attention, something different from their regular portfolio. And they also wanted to take some of their older brands in a new direction, with new lines, of course. And that's what they did here. Now, this is different from their Montecristo Epic No.2, which also, I believe, featured vintage tobacco from 2007. But this one is different in that they named it Selección 2007. How and why it's different, I couldn't tell you exactly, other than the bands are different, look different. And I'll say this because I did read a little bit of what an article that Half Wheel wrote about this cigar, and I'll agree with Half Wheel on this. The bands just don't go well. They clash against each other. They just don't do it for me. But that's just an aesthetic feature, right? What the cigar brings in terms of flavor, that's another story. Oaky flavor, slightly nutty, and not now, but earlier when I was getting, which I'm still getting, that black dirt, earthy tobacco flavor, I was also getting a little saltiness, which is gone now. Slightly dry finish for sure, but oaky. So when you take a cigar that's full body and you let it age for a little bit in your humidor, assuming the conditions are correct, lower RH, and just well maintained humidor in general, you're going to expect certain changes from the aging. We've discussed this. In some cases, it's going to better the tobacco or the cigar. In some cases, it's going to just create a different profile that will really be smooth and will be really smoothed out, and some notes that may have been more prominent when the cigar was fresh will now not be so prominent, and what you'll be getting is sort of a toned down version of some of those notes. And that's not always a bad thing, because some people do prefer that aged smoke profile, and some of us don't. And as for the cigar makers themselves, some of them will even put out statements in regards to aging those particular cigars, and in how long you should age them, how long you should not, and what to expect if you age them a certain amount of time. Ultimately, they want you to do whatever you feel comfortable doing and what you enjoy doing with the cigars you purchase. So the cigar companies don't tend to be too pushy about that, but there are a few, and I can't think of any names right now, that go as far as to say you shouldn't age this for more than, say, a year, because we would like you to experience the flavor as we intend for it to be expressed. And if you age it for X amount of years, it's not necessarily that you ruin it, but you change the profile to the point where you're no longer tasting it the way that they had intended for you to taste it. You follow me so far? Because even I confuse myself sometimes when I'm talking too fast. But this one, fuller bodied, I felt very confident that if it did stay in the humidor for more than a year, it would be fine. And I believe I am correct. I'm correct in the point that it still has that full-bodied feel to it. The body is it's just full-bodied. I mean, there's what flavors in this potentially got smoothed out. Perhaps some of the pepper. Perhaps that's usually one of those things that gets balanced out and smooths out. But to someone that likes those pepper zings, you would not be happy with that, right? You would be disappointed that you're not getting that pepper. So watch how you age your cigars. In my case, I really didn't care in regards to the cigar of how it was going to smooth out, and it was very full-bodied, so I took a chance, and I feel I'm okay with it so far. Let's see, I just got a little pepper right there. It's a little out of balance right now. I'm gonna sit back, smoke a little bit more of this cigar, and I'll report back. You know, I think whether you're a new company or whether you're an older company, large company, small company, you're always gonna do some kind of marketing, put out some kind of hype on cigar releases, and that's okay. That is perfectly okay. Some live up to the hype, some don't. Unfortunately, for those that don't, if they don't have a long track record of success, it can haunt them. In the case of the larger companies that have other brands in their portfolio, well, they can move forward with those and just sweep it under the rug and call it a mistake, or, you know, try again with something else if they so choose. With this released in 2012, they really laid on the hype. They called it epic because they said, we chose el grupo de maestros to undertake the task of producing these cigars. Now, if you're not familiar with Altaldi's grupo de maestros, these are 5 men who have hundreds of years of experience between them, that come together to form a group, a team that puts together creations for Altaldi's, the cigar company. One of the cigars that they are very well known for is the Romeo by Romeo Julieta, with the very modern looking, eye-catchy band. It's a good cigar. I happen to love that cigar. Uh, these men supposedly went through they went through the process of the cigar and provided a certificate of authentication for every step they took in the process of making the cigar. Now that sounds very cool, but I don't really need a certificate to know that you should be doing your job and doing it right. I just kind of want a great finished product that's ultimately going to smoke great and that I can feel proud of having purchased, even if I just purchased a single, in which this case I did. And the ash just dropped. But I get it. You're trying to hype a product, you get some of your best men to take on the job, and you talk about how the smoke is so good and how the cigar is so good that you had to name it epic. And that's fine. I mean, at no point did they mention that they were producing the best cigar in the world, or that their cigar was going to enrich your soul in any kind of way. They were just really trying to heavily promote a cigar, and whether or not it lives up to the hype for me, well, I'm still determining. Right now, it's not blowing me away. It's just a very earthy cigar, some pepper notes, a little nuttiness. Decent aroma, a little bit of hay I just got there. So, well, some of you might say, well, you aged it almost 2 years. Could that be the reason why you're not? No, I don't think that's the reason. Good tobacco isn't going to degrade if you're aging it correctly in your humidor, especially under the right conditions, as I mentioned before. It'll smooth out. It might even feel a little milder in a sense, because some of those potent notes might have been diminished a bit. But we're talking about 2 years here, folks. 2 years on tobacco that was already aged 5 years. So that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is I'm just not being thoroughly impressed. And I'm not saying this is a bad cigar yet. I would like to smoke more of it before really coming to a set conclusion. But what I'm saying is, look, it's fine when companies hype their cigars and make these prodigious statements about what to expect in their tobacco. I'm just saying, you're not always gonna get a hit. You're not always gonna hit a home run. Sometimes you're gonna strike out. The cigar's got a good draw. I've only had to give it one major touch-up, which I just gave it a few moments ago, as the burn line started misbehaving. As distracting as of the colors of the two bands are, I haven't really paid it much mind as I've been smoking the cigar. I've just been trying to focus on the flavors. It started off with that black dirt, earthy tobacco taste, some saltiness, and it developed a little bit of nuttiness. Some of the pepper and the spice came up, and as I get into the second third, it toned down a bit. Everything smoothed out a bit. I stopped getting that deep oaky flavor in the finish that I was getting. The black dirt tobacco flavor just kind of faded away as well, and it started to give me a few sweet notes here and there, some nuttiness still, and of course it's still an earthy cigar. Of course, I just felt like it maintained that earthiness. It just toned it down a bit as we headed into the second third. But folks, for $22, you're in Padron territory. And if you're charging $22 for a cigar, you gotta bring it. You gotta bring it. And I try not to hold too many cigars, their price against them, when it's within a certain range, a certain limit, right? For me, because I think that once you go above a certain market value for for that cigar, or those tobaccos, we're talking about, you know, select vintage tobaccos, yes, but we're not talking about 10, 12-year age tobacco like Padron does in some of their cigars. And I'm not trying to throw Padron in their faces. I'm really not. Because as a cigar company, I think that if you're too focused on competing with your peers, you've already lost. It's about competing with yourself, and and competing from within to get the company going. You can roll really great cigars. You can have really good rollers. You can have people out there speaking the word, preaching the word about your cigars. You can have people like myself give them a review, either good or bad, and it may not even make them or break them. But acquiring the tobacco is what it's all about. Acquiring the good tobacco to ensure that when it's rolled properly, you're rolling something good, something that we're going to love. In this case, I don't think there's anything wrong with the tobacco so much, but perhaps there's something off in the harmony of the blend. I really couldn't say. I didn't get firsthand look at the tobacco in question. It's a decent smoke, and if this was priced at $10, $12, I'd probably say okay, you know, worth the money. But it's $22, so I have to kind of say something in regards to that. And I guess what I'm saying is no, not at $22. No, this is I'm not gonna call this an epic failure, but I won't call this an epic success either. So decent flavor notes. The cigar did improve as you smoked more of it, as you got into that second third. Definitely full bodied. Definitely you get a little bit of a nicotine punch from this one, even with almost 2 years of age on it. So you can just imagine how much more vibrant it would be fresh. That isn't to say it would be a better thing, but I can tell you I feel the strength of this cigar, and I do. I've smoked it a little slowly because I can tell that this is the type of cigar, not necessarily that can get you sick, but they can get you a little high. So, so having said that, it's a decent smoke. It is. It's a decent smoke. Nothing epic, but certainly a decent smoke. I would take the Romeo by Romeo Julieta any day over this cigar, and I think that's a what, $13 to $15 cigar. So there you have it, folks. Thank you for watching Backyard Cigars. Till next time, I'm going to keep it real with you. Always. Thanks.